Good day, world. I'm broker Brookes, and I am with AcreX Partners powered by Premier South. This is the mini series Before We Forget, where we take a look at the first half of the year in order to better navigate the second half. And before I forget, if you're watching me from somewhere other than Charlotte, go ahead and drop me a comment so I can know where you are and maybe tell me something that's happening around you locally. Secondly, if you have consumed episode 1 and 2 and you haven't yet subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you did. It does help me create this content. We're on episode 3 now. The market had an answer here in Charlotte. Last episode, we followed a lot. Ships, oil, inflation, AI, money, and how it's changing. We watched how something started overseas and it came right to our front porch with our mortgage rates, our cap rates, our construction estimates. And we left with the question, how are we going to respond to this pressure? Are we going to respond with strength, with caution, or are we going to fall apart? As a whole, Charlotte didn't sit still while all of this pressure moved through. CBRE actually named it the 5th most attractive market in the country for commercial real estate investment. Guys, that's a 13-spot jump in 1 year. That's the kind of move that makes institutional investors say, wait a minute, did we look at Charlotte good enough? There was also over 37,000 jobs by the end of 2025. It's important because it's the second most of any large metro across the country. And I already told you we're approaching 1 million residents in this region. 157 people arriving every day. Now that stat has dropped a little, but the whole point is it's still there. And that means we have demand for grocery stores, for medical offices, for roads, for schools, for warehouse space, and more. And that's not all. Capital just keeps coming. Capital Group, SMBC, they reinforce Charlotte's banking gravity with real investment. 600 jobs, $60 million, 2,000 jobs, $50 million. Then you had Siemens put $421 million into North Carolina expansion, which would include Charlotte. Maersk moved its North American headquarters here, and Ingersoll Rand became a Fortune 500 company, which makes that our 8th Fortune 500 company that's headquartered right here in the region. So we didn't freeze. The market here didn't freeze. It kept attracting the capital, the people, the headquarters straight through a 6-month stretch while the global backdrop was anything but peaceful. That doesn't mean that everything was perfect here or that every owner is just winning. It means the demand engine underneath this region's hood is very real. But as we said last time, higher rates doesn't erase the growth. We're still experiencing it. It just changes how the growth shows up in our area. Some activity will keep going and some is going to shut down. And that's what we're going to walk through sector by sector. Let's start with office. Charlotte's office market is doing something very unusual. It's actually recovering. The vacancy fell to the lowest since 2023, and the first quarter leasing has been the strongest since the pandemic. But that recovery is not broad. It's split. The buildings that were delivered in the last 10 years are performing very well, but the older unrenovated stock, not so much. So this isn't office is back. This is right office is back. Uptown, South End, South Park, best parts of Ballantyne, they're still landing tenants who believe in high quality collaborative space. So your JP Morgans, your SMBCs, your Charles Schwab, your Scout Motors, they're the ones with the talent pipeline that we talked about in the last episode. And it's exactly what's still putting tenants in these buildings and causing that lower vacancy rate, causing the recovery. And we can't forget good old AI, can we? Companies are no longer just asking how much space do they need. They're asking what kind of work actually happens here. They're saying if AI is handling more routine work, the space has to earn its keep differently. Collaboration, training, culture, trust, all those things still require a room and a table. Here's what that means. A high-quality building in a strong location still has real tenant demand. An older building with dated systems, weak parking, no real amenity package, Very direct message here. You can't price it like 2019, and then sometimes you can't keep it at all. You have to reinvent it. That's why the former Duke Energy Tower uptown is being converted to residential and mixed use, and I'm excited to see it. It's also why Rushmore 1 in Ballantyne is being considered for more than 400 apartments and townhomes. Same market, two very different experiences, and it's the clearest version we have of the separation that I'm trying to explain. Let's go to the other sectors. Two sectors, same story right now. They're just wearing different clothes, and we're going to discuss them together. Industrial and multifamily. Both had a large wave of supply over the past few years, and both have to digest it. You know, when you eat a lot of food, you just can't stuff more food in your mouth. You have to wait for it to digest before you can eat something else that you want. That's what the industrial and multifamily market is going through right now. Industrial first. Charlotte absorbed a historic amount of new industrial space since 2020. And of course, the vacancy moved up for a while, but since the first quarter of 2026, the balance has been shifting back. Absorption, where people are actually renting these spaces, outpaced new supply for the third quarter in a row, and vacancy came down. And as we know, new construction slowed sharply. In some corners of our market, supply is actually tight again. In the first half of the year, there was less than 2 million square feet of large scale Class A industrial space. That's those big box spaces that's over 500,000 square feet. There's less than 2 million across the whole metro. No more of it is being built speculatively. Translation, if a major tenant needs a new building tomorrow, there's almost nowhere to put them. Smaller industrial spaces under 125,000 square feet, the building contractors, suppliers, and local service companies actually uses, they remain one of the most dependable corners of the market because so little new supply is being built to replace it. And that's a whole nother story as to why it's not being built to replace it that we can't get into right now. Multifamily is running the same play as industrial, but with apartments. Remember, I told you they're dressed differently. The rents were down, the vacancy ticked up, the concessions got more common. And that sounds like a soft market, right? Like it's not doing well. But it's not true. The deeper story is a supply cycle. It's not a demand collapse. Remember, I told you the demand is still headed to Charlotte. Charlotte delivered a huge wave of units and it absorbed a large share of them at the same time because of that demand engine. While new construction starts have already slowed and capital is getting more expensive and lenders more cautious, renters have more choice. But the market could look very different once vacancies drop. Here's a very interesting connection worth the pause. Some of the next wave of multifamily may not be ground up construction at all. Could be office space the market no longer wants to hold, and they're trying to find different ways to bring it back to life. We talked about it just moments ago when we mentioned the Duke Energy Tower and Rushmore 1 in Ballantyne. If you add enough of those conversions together, then the weakest buildings in office could become a part of the multifamily supply wave. We'll just have to wait and see. One more thing both sectors have in common is where the growth is going. Gaston and Rowan counties absorbed most of the apartment occupancy gains, and Utz Quality Foods by itself took over 300,000 square feet of industrial space in Gaston. And that's not just what you call spillover. Perhaps it's the ring counties becoming a real demand center in their own right. And we're going to talk a lot more about this in the next episode. But we got to get through these sectors. Let's move to retail and land. People keep moving to Charlotte, but retail construction has been constrained for years. So you have this persistent problem, right? More people needing daily services, and there are not enough well-located spaces to serve them. That's why good small shop space doesn't sit long empty. The grocery anchored centers, the fitness centers, the medical and childcare areas. People still shop. They still eat out and they still run errands. So retail can't possibly be dead. What's changed is why they go. Delivery and price checking from the couch is unfortunately our new normal. So a store has to earn the right to a trip. And when gas gets more expensive, that store has to work even harder to earn that same trip. Land. Land may be the most honest sector in the market because it reacts very quickly to uncertainty. When money is cheap, buyers stretch and purchase that land. But when it gets tight, they are much more disciplined. The land still getting attention is already entitled, served by utilities, close to jobs and transportation. Raw land with uncertain zoning or infrastructure isn't worthless. It's just harder to finance because the real question is, how long do I have to wait before I get my money back from this dirt? And here's where, again, the retail and land meet. Can you tell me? It's in the ring counties. Gaston, Cabarrus, Iredell, Lincoln, York, Lancaster, they all have growing households and real measurable retail leakage. Retail leakage is where people are driving out of their own communities, their own counties, and going to a nearby one to buy the exact same thing they can't get at home. That's the market telling you that there is demand, and it's telling you where demand wants to go next. Land is very special because it can also point in the direction of where demand is going, even without a building on it. For example, Gaston County just acquired a 562-acre property along Lake Wylie. It's going to be a public park with trails. The public is going to have great lake access, and it's going to be connected to the Carolina Thread Trail. That's not development in the traditional sense, but it raises the profile of the whole South Point and Belmont corridor. Households are already here. The question is whether the space, whether it's built or unbuilt, is ready to meet those households where they are. And the final sector, last but certainly not least, residential. Residential is not separate from commercial real estate, in my view, because it tells us where people are choosing to live. And where people actually live, retail follows. And industrial tenants really would like to know where people are living, the quality of life. Schools feel it, roads feel it, it's connected. The most important thing to understand about our residential market is that it's not crashing. It's simply normalizing. The prices have held firm, especially in Mecklenburg County and the city of Charlotte. Inventory is the highest it's been in years, which gives buyers some room to breathe, but the region still isn't fully in a balanced market. So sellers haven't quite lost their footing, but they have to play nicer. A home priced right, prepared well, and in a desirable area still has the support it needs here. And with multifamily owners leaning on concessions to fill their units, renting looks nicer for another year, more comfortable. That's taken some of the pressure off the for sale market in the residential arena as well. But the split that's happening in residential is running by geography. It's the same separation we've been talking about and that we've been seeing elsewhere in this episode. The core areas, Mecklenburg, Union, Cabarrus, and the city of Charlotte, of course, stays tight. The outer ring, the Lincolns, the Rowans, the Clevelands, the Stanley, parts of Gaston, they have more room to negotiate. Condos and townhomes are softer than single-family homes in some pockets, and South Carolina is cooling the fastest when there's new construction that's competing with existing sellers. And even in residential, people are adopting AI in this market faster than they're trusting it. They'll use it to search and compare, but they still want that human being to say, yes, the data says this, but this is what is actually happening on the ground. That same tension is running through commercial real estate also. AI can help screen a site, summarize a lease, analyze a rent roll, compare a market, but can it walk the property? Can it feel the traffic pattern? It certainly cannot understand the politics of rezoning. So AI might be moving fast, but trust is still moving very slow, and it's still very local. So here's the answer to the question we opened up with. Charlotte responded to the pressure, and the sectors are saying this. Retail is saying, I want to grow, and they're trying to catch up to where households already are. Land is saying, I'm ready to go, but it's still waiting on infrastructure, capital, and local decisions to be made. Industrial and multifamily is saying, we're full. No more new construction because we have to digest all this work, all this construction. But thanks to the demand underneath, they are doing very well. Office is recovering, but only for the buildings that make the office meaningful and attractive. For the other buildings, new ideas are trying to bring them back to life. And residential, good old residential, it is normalizing, and the buyers finally have room to breathe. That's the Charlotte response. Not one story, but 5 sectors, each responding to the same pressure in its own way. The best assets in every category still get attention. The weakest, they're repriced or reinvented. And the middle, that's where strategy has to earn its keep. That's where the right pricing, the right repositioning, and the right timing can change the outcome. So is Charlotte still strong? Listen very carefully to my answer. Charlotte currently has a V6 demand engine under its hood, and that's strong enough to keep growth steady. But that same growth has made this market mature enough to stop handing out participation trophies. Yes, I said that. In our next episode, the headlines move on, the market responded, but now we go beyond the core. Because the regional story isn't just Charlotte. It's Gaston, it's ring counties, it's roads, schools, water, and local decisions made by leadership and communities. That's what's going to decide where growth goes next. Join me next time for Beyond the Core. I'm Broker Brookes with AcreX Partners, powered by Premier South, and I need you to subscribe. See you next time.